Did you know that sheep can get lice? I didn't. In fact, I had been breeding Old English Baby Doll Southdowns for 10 years, and I had never experienced lice. That is, until I brought home my Shetland sheep. Now I can share with you what I've learned. The signs of lice are biting, rubbing against walls, itching, twitching, laying down, and bald spots in the wool. I didn't have all of those symptoms. My number one was twitching, followed by rubbing on the walls and laying down. Those were the only ones that I noticed. This can be a little deceiving because I noticed that in the spring, my Shetlands will do these symptoms when they're hot and it's ready for them to be shorn or sheared. So you will need to check for lice with a flashlight. So this is Olympia, and this is the one that actually initially had the lice. So to identify the lice, you will need to grab a flashlight, and you're going to need to part the wool so that you can see down to the skin. You will be able to see the lice moving with a flashlight. It's even trickier on a sheep like her because she's black, so it is pretty difficult to see. She's pretty friendly. So the area I recommend searching for the lice is their back thigh, right here. The back thigh area has really long, thick wool, and the lice really like that area. So again, going to this back thigh, kind of by the butt area, the wool is very long there. So you want to part the wool and get down to the skin. Shine your flashlight right here, and you will be able to see little lice moving around. It's difficult, but it is possible. So how do you treat lice? Well, it depends on what kind of lice you have. It turns out that there are two types of lice. There is sucking lice and biting lice. Now, I didn't know that until I called a veterinarian. When I first brought these Shetlands home, I actually treated them all with Dectomax, injectable Dectomax. So that should have taken care of the lice. But needless to say, I didn't know that I had the biting lice. So sucking lice is going to suck on the blood of the animal, whereas biting lice is going to feed on the skin. So then I knew that I had the biting lice and I needed to treat that accordingly. So how to treat the lice? If you have the sucking lice, you will obviously need a systemic medication, and the Dectomax would have been perfectly acceptable. Just a side note with the Dectomax that it is labeled for cattle and swine, so it's off-label use for sheep, but you just need to get the dosage from a veterinarian. I'm totally cool with off-label use. For the sucking lice, you will need to apply a topical medication. Initially, I bought this Ultra Boss to apply topically, as it does claim that it can treat lice, but I can tell you it did not. Now, it may work better for horses, cattle, where they don't have the wool, but it didn't work well for the sheep from my personal experience. So I would say don't waste your money. It was also more inconvenient because it's dosed based on the weight, so I had to catch and weigh every single sheep, dose them accordingly, part the wool and try to get it onto their skin, and all that work, and it didn't even work. So that was kind of a disappointment. So I do not recommend the Pour-Ons for topical. What did work for me was this Y-Tek Python dust. This was awesome. I will have a link for this in the video description. You will need to apply this with gloves on and a mask because you don't want to get it on your skin or breathe it in. And you'll need to reapply it. On the directions it says to repeat as necessary, but not more often than once in 3 days. So I gave 4 treatments to Olympia, the sheep that actually had the lice, and I gave 3 treatments to the sheep that didn't have lice, but just as a preventative measure. Now, I do prefer to use natural medications if possible, but there is a time and place for medications that aren't natural, and this was one of them. If one sheep has lice, and say you have a flock of 30, 50, even 100 head of sheep, it is really quite an investment in time and money to catch and treat all of them. So I wanted to eradicate the lice quickly. One additional sign of lice that I forgot to mention was that they do ruin the wool. The wool was kind of lumpy and almost felted, so unfortunately I had to throw it away. This fleece is not damaged, but I'm just showing you where to locate the lice. When I applied the Python dust, I didn't just sprinkle it on and walk away. While wearing gloves, I made sure to really comb it through the length of the fleece and try to somewhat massage it into the skin area. Also check the label. I believe it is a 1 tablespoon limit per animal. I will have a link in the video description if you would like to purchase some. To summarize, if your sheep are showing any symptoms of lice, grab a flashlight and check it out. If they have it, treat it right away with the Python dust. Be sure to treat it multiple times. It works, and I'm hoping I'm saving you some time.